Hello, and welcome to the Voices of Bellevue School District podcast, where we amplify the voices of students, staff, and families, sharing their unique lived experiences to strengthen our Bellevue community. In each episode, we'll explore We Belong, significant cultural traditions, customs, and lived experiences of our beloved Bellevue community. We learn academic programs and innovative initiatives, along with the staff and students behind them. We lead discussions with leaders in our community on topics that drive innovation in education. I'm Janine Thorne, Chief of Communications, and I'm joined by Dr. Kelly Aramaki, Superintendent of the Bellevue School District.
Hi, everybody. Great to be here today. I'm excited about today's topic. We're going to be talking about an issue that is of great interest to many in our community, and that is safety and security. Today, I'm joined with Doug James, who is our Head of Security, Kelly Hansman, who is our Emergency Management Program Coordinator, and we're really fortunate today to be here with Colin Brown, who's a freshman at Bellevue High School. And he's taken a radio podcasting class with his teacher, Brad Conger. And so he is running the show today. So today's an extra special session for us. Welcome, Doug and Kelly. Great to see you.
Morning. Well,
Before we jump into the topic of safety and security, we like to start with just some kind of get to know you stuff. And so, Kelly, I know that you went to school here in Bellevue. Can you just tell us a little bit about your education here in the Bellevue School District? And then, Doug, I'm going to ask you the same about kind of where you grew up, went to high school, and all that.
Yeah, so I grew up in the Bellevue School District. I attended Newport Heights, Tye, and I graduated from Newport High School. Very proud about that.
Awesome.
And fun fact, that Dr. Aramaki was a teacher at Newport Heights when I was attending.
That's right.
that's great.
Thank you for pointing that out. Yes, I did. Newport Heights is an amazing school. Go Dolphins. What does it feel like to come back and to be able to serve the school district in this way where you're working hard to keep people safe?
It feels great. I mean, a lot of what I learned here has shaped me as a person. So being able to come back and provide guidance, especially in the safety realm, is so important to me. And I was just reflecting the other day. I remember my senior year of high school, I had a teacher, Miss Henderson, and she had us do a assignment where we would write a letter to our future selves, and then the next year she would send it back to us.
Wow.
And it could be a letter on anything, but I chose to write mine about what I hope to do with my future, like after graduating from high school. And I found it as I was cleaning out some boxes, and I read it, and it talked about how I know that people, especially students, don't just snap. And if there is a way to keep our schools safe, and it just got me reflecting on, hey, threat assessment is relatively a new topic. It's only been around the last, really big, the last 10, 15 years or so. But I was kind of predicting my own future of getting into threat assessment and being able to be proactive and protect our kids in our schools and keep schools safe. So that was pretty eye-opening and awesome.
That's awesome. Doug, how about you? Did you also grow up in Bellevue?
No, not in Bellevue, so don't hold it against me, but I'm a Redmond High School Mustang.
Oh,
Went to the Lake Washington School District, graduated from Redmond High.
we got to stop this. Oh.
But, hey, I am a Husky, graduated from the University of Washington.
Okay. That's awesome. Okay, forgiven. We are still in the season of fall. I'd love to hear, so I love talking to people about coffee and things like that, but, cold fall day here in the Pacific Northwest, what's your go-to drink in the morning?
Yeah, actually, as far as coffees go, I'm always an iced coffee drinker. I love, no matter how cold it is outside, I love iced coffee.
And I'm definitely a tea person.
Oh, you're a tea person. What kind of tea do you like to drink?
Everything, but I really enjoy green tea and white tea in particular.
Oh, awesome. That's great. Okay, so today we're going to talk about safety and security. The beginning of this school year, there was the tragic gun violence issue over in Appalachia High School. And so school safety is the top of people's minds all the time, as it should be. And so I guess the way I'd like to start this is to turn it over to you, Doug, and just talk about when you came to the Bellevue School District, and what did you do when you came and took over safety and security? What was kind of your thoughts, your plan, and the way that you wanted to create a safe environment here in Bellevue?
Yeah, so my prior to coming to the school district, I've been with the Bellevue School District for 8 years now, but retired federal law enforcement, so that's my background, career in law enforcement. And when I came to the Bellevue School District, after meeting team members and talking to the executive team, I really understood the importance of training of our staff, training of our students, right? The most important safety resource we have in the school district are our students and the staff. They're the immediate responders in any critical incident, and it's so important that they know how to respond safely, effectively, and efficiently to any critical incident, whether that's a fire, an earthquake, or, God forbid, an active threat event. So we have really focused over the years on providing that baseline level of training to equip our staff and students to be the immediate responders.
One of the things that you've talked about a lot is the importance of physical security in keeping our schools safe. And I know that over the past few years, you've done so much to help us have kind of safe schools when it comes to like physical security. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of physical security? What does that include?
Yeah, so physical security is part of our multi-layered approach to overall school security, right? When you talk about the 3 pillars of school security, those of prevention, preparedness, and response, physical security falls under that first pillar of prevention. All of those pillars, those 3 pillars, are all equally important. So if you think of a 3-legged stool, right? If you remove one of those legs, the stool is going to fall. So it's important that we have strong foundation in all 3 of those pillars: prevention, preparedness, and response. But physical security in particular, yeah, we've made advancements here in the Bellevue School District. We've looked at best practices to enhance physical security, to try to maintain that balance between having a warm and welcoming school environment, but also promote a physical environment where we're dissuading, we're deterring individuals that may have ill intentions or may wish to do harm to our staff or students. And physical security in the school district runs everything from security bollards and cameras to gates and fencing and signage to delineate the perimeter of our buildings, and also to delineate the actions that we want or don't want people to take on our campuses. For instance, our campuses are gun-free zones. We don't want people carrying weapons onto our campuses, so we place signage to establish that expectation. But other physical security measures that we put in place in the district, beyond fencing and cameras and locks, are exterior doors, making sure our exterior doors are locked, right? Making sure that we have a single point of entry into all of our school buildings. So individuals coming onto campus, whether it's to visit a classroom, to pick up a student, that they enter the school through the front door and that they're greeted by staff, where staff members can ascertain whether they have a legitimate business purpose to be on our campus. We also use security vestibules to funnel visitors into the office. We have lockdown buttons to where at the push of a button, staff can lock all exterior doors at one time. Door locks are so important, and we really preach that and we push that here in the Bellevue School District. A locked classroom door has not been breached by an active shooter in the United States.
Ever?
So it's absolutely crucial, if our staff members, students, hear the sound of violence in the hallways, yelling, trampling of feet, screaming, that they simply pull that pre-locked classroom door closed, or it's already closed to begin with. That's going to provide them a basic layer of protection.
So is that why when you go into a school, you can see the classroom doors are just slightly open and there's a little magnet there? Can you kind of explain what that is?
Yeah, so we leave it up to each teacher to decide whether they want that classroom door fully locked and closed during their instruction times. If they want to leave their door propped, that lock has to be pre-locked. It has to be locked. We don't want staff members having to fumble with keys, fidget with locks, because under stress, fine motor skills go out the window, right? So we have them put a magnet in the door jamb, and if they do hear the sounds of violence, they simply swipe that magnet with a gross motor skill and pull the classroom door closed. It's as simple as that.
Got it. Kelly, I'm going to turn over to you. So Doug has talked a lot about this kind of certification that you have, or that you're a certified threat assessment specialist. What exactly does that mean? And what is that certification that you received?
Yeah, so I am a certified threat manager through the Association of Threat Assessment Professionals, and it's really that gold standard in behavioral threat assessment and threat management. It requires a lot of significant and detailed professional development, and it's all research-based, so keeping up with the latest trends in the research to make sure that we're doing best practices in our field, which for me is the school district. Threat assessment in and of itself is very much research-based, and we've seen time and time and again that through this research that those who engaged in targeted violence, malicious, premeditated violence tend to follow what's called a pathway to violence. And so threat assessment takes apart that pathway to violence to see if someone is actually on it, where they could be, and taking a look at those risk factors and those protective factors and all this information to determine if there is an ongoing threat to safety.
So something you talked about at the last board meeting was kind of that pathway to violence. And something that really stood out to me was you basically said that when it comes to like school violence, it's typically not just something that like all of a sudden happens with a student. There's usually some like warning signs or a pathway that a kid goes through in order to get to that point where they commit an act of violence in schools. Is that basically then the foundation of how you do threat assessment? Because I guess the broader question that people want to know is, if a threat is made, let's just say on social media, or a student makes a threat, what is that formal threat assessment process that you typically take us through in the Bellevue School District?
Right. So threat assessment really helps us also determine if it is more reactive violence, so someone gets heated in the moment and says something or has some kind of physical altercation in the moment because they are so upset, or if it's something that they have been planning for a while, they are taking steps to prepare to do this act of targeted violence. And for the example of if there's a threat on social media, we take all threats seriously, no matter if they are posted on social media, whether they are posted to our anonymous tip line, whether they are told to a trusted staff member from a student at school. But what happens is we get law enforcement involved. We make sure that a thorough investigation on their side is taken place. And then on our side, we gather as much information as possible, and we go through our standardized process, which includes a structured professional judgment tool. And again, we're looking at these risk factors. We're looking at these warning signs, these pathway behaviors that could indicate that someone might be along this pathway. So we complete this process no matter what the threat is, no matter who the subject of concern is. And then after that, we have what's called an incident management team meeting where we get directors and our admin teams at our schools together, and we talk about the threat assessment. We also talk about what can we do to get this person off the pathway to violence if they are on it. So what kind of supports can we offer either through our school district or through our community partners to get them more engaged and connected to their community?
So some of the response could be disciplinary, but you're saying that some of the response is to provide support for the student so that they don't take that pathway. Is that right?
Exactly, yeah. So threat assessment in and of itself is not disciplinary, although based on the circumstances of the situation, discipline may be involved. But threat assessment is always going to be about supporting the student and having that support be individualized based on what they need.
Doug, one question that's on people's minds a lot is when a threat is made, how do you determine if it's a credible threat or not? Because sometimes we'll just see like random things on social media that aren't even posted from here locally, but it's like something nationally, but then maybe our school is named or things like that. How do you determine when a threat is made, if the threat is credible?
Yeah, social media threats in and of themselves are very challenging because they're anonymous in nature, right? So we really leverage our partnership with our law enforcement partners. They have tools and resources where they can track down the individuals who posted those threats. But as you look at a threat, whether it's posted to social media, whether it's written on a bathroom wall, written on a piece of paper, or it's a verbal statement by somebody, we work with law enforcement to assess that threat and make a determination whether it's credible or not, right? Does that person have the means and ability and access to weapons to carry out that threat? So working with law enforcement, they have processes and procedures in place, right? They can interrogate individuals, interview, they can detain people, they can take people into custody based upon evidence that they obtained during a criminal investigation of a threat, right? So we look to mitigate that threat. And once that threat has been mitigated, that's when we then turn to our threat assessment process in the district to determine what interventions and supports we need to put forward to keep that individual off a pathway of violence.
I guess one thing I'd also add too is that they wonder about kind of how we communicate about threats and things like that. And one thing I'll say is, as soon as a threat is made and it's reported, Doug, you usually contact us like within a minute or two just to let us know that something had happened. And then we coordinate with the school, with the district, with you, with the police department and things like that. And then at that moment, we start planning for communication because, I think parents want information and we want to give people information. We really want to build trust with the community so that they know that we're taking threats seriously. And then are giving parents information because parents want to know that their kids are going to be safe. And so do you have any thoughts or anything you want to share with the community about like how we think about communicating threats out to the public?
Yeah, so I think two key things. First thing is when individuals in our community, whether it's a student, whether it's a parent, a caregiver, if they see something posted on social media, they need to report it, not repost it, right? It's very key that we don't keep circulating and reposting that threat out there. It tends to take a life of its own, right? And tends to amplify and magnify the situation. So report, not repost social media threats. And then secondly, yes, we work diligently to get communications out to our community on what we're doing to address threats to our schools. But our community needs to understand that our first focus is on life safety, right? It's on responding to the incident and making sure that our staff and our students are safe, and gathering the pertinent information. Once we've gathered that information, we're going to communicate it out, but that may take a little bit of time. We as a school district will never be able to get ahead of the rumor mill on social media, right? The rumor mill out there on chat boards, the telephone communication line, right? We will never be able to get ahead of that. We will strive, but we can't get ahead of what's out there on social media. We are committed to pushing out accurate information, but our first focus is on life safety and scene stabilization, and then communications to our community.
Great. That is a great point. I just want to reiterate that our first job is to make sure that things are safe. And so we do work hard on that. And then when we do put out a communication, we have to make sure that what we put out is accurate. And so it is very possible that, the community might get information quicker through texting or through their own social media channels. We could never compete with the speed of that, nor would we want to, because we need to make sure that we take time and get the information out that's actually accurate. But even having said that, we do work as hard as we can to communicate as quickly as possible so that people have information and we can alleviate unnecessary fear. I know that some people might be listening to this podcast and have questions or want to know more information. Doug, are you open to working with PTAs to come out to schools and talk, or does your team do things like that?
Absolutely.
Schools want to know more information.
Yeah, our team loves going out to the schools and talking to our community groups, our PTSA groups. We actively do that at all of our schools. I've got a couple on my calendar in particular, and I believe Kelly does too. So we love communicating and answering questions, absolutely. And then if people have questions in general, beyond a community setting, they can always email the Safety and Security Department at safetyandsecurity@bsd405.org. We respond to those emails and look forward to connecting with our community.
Hey, BSD community. We'll be right back after this short break.
Hey BSD, I'm Ayumi and I'm a student at Bellevue Big Picture School. With this episode's public service reminder, if you see a safety concern on social media, report, not repost. It's more helpful to report a concern than repost it on social media to slow or stop the spread of information that hasn't been confirmed by authorities. Safety concerns should first be reported to a trusted adult, local police, and/or the Bellevue School District. From the homepage of bsd405.org or school site under Students, select Report Concern. Remember, for social media, report, not repost.
Doug, we have a really great relationship with the Bellevue Police Department as well as the Medina and Clyde Hill Police Departments. I had a couple of conversations recently with Chief Shirley from the Bellevue Police Department, and he and we text each other and call each other whenever things are going on. Can you just talk about our partnership with our kind of local law enforcement?
Yeah, I'm very proud of the partnerships that we've developed with not only Bellevue PD, Bellevue Fire, but Clyde Hill PD and Medina PD. We have an outstanding relationship. We have 36 buildings in our school district, 18,000 plus students, 3,000 plus staff members. We have incidences happening in our buildings on a daily basis, whether they're medical emergencies or safety concerns, where our first responders respond to support us. Operationally, on a daily basis, members of the Safety and Security Department are in contact with members from Bellevue Police Department and the other law enforcement jurisdictions in our area. And we work cooperatively and synergize efforts with our building administrators to make sure that we're keeping our schools safe. Bellevue PD routinely uses our facilities to train their staff members, right? So they use our vacant facilities to hone their own response skills. They do walkthroughs. Bellevue Fire, Bellevue PD, and Clyde Hill and Medina do walkthroughs of our buildings to familiarize themselves with the intricacies of our buildings, some of the resources that we have available at our building sites, such as bleeding control kits, AEDs, and emergency supply caches that they could potentially use themselves in a large-scale disaster. So our efforts really are synergized, and we have an outstanding relationship with our first responders.
Yeah, people have wondered, if we ever needed support, how quick, the police can get to our buildings. Is it pretty quick?
Very quick. Bellevue PD has a 2.5-minute response time for priority one calls, right? And they prioritize any call for service from a school. They prioritize those calls. So we have a very short response time.
One thing you talked about just a second ago was AEDs and bleeding control kits. And I have noticed it even when I walked in here to Bellevue High School, that we have them in every school building. Can you just talk about that? Because there's also, I think the issue of fentanyl has been, huge lately. And there's these, the fentanyl kits that are there.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So life-saving equipment is very important, right? There's a short response time, 2.5 minutes. For an ambulance or a fire truck, that could be a 4 or 5 minute response time, right? So the actions that an individual takes in the first couple minutes of any incident are absolutely crucial, right? So it's important that we have that life-saving equipment here on site and that our staff members are trained in how to use it. We do have AEDs strategically placed in all of our buildings, automated external defibrillators, right, to address sudden cardiac arrest incidences involving a staff member or a student. We also have bleeding control kits, and we train our staff and students, secondary students, on the application of tourniquets and to control excessive bleeding. And we have also placed Narcan, that is the opioid reversal medication, strategically in all of our school buildings, even at the elementary school level, because we recognize that it's a community-wide problem, right? Fentanyl and opioid overdoses are a community-wide problem. We want to be prepared.
Kelly, in the prevention of threats, I know that so much of the work is proactive. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of like mental health supports for kids, or, focusing on anti-bullying and a positive school climate and things like that?
Yeah, that definitely makes an impact. I mean, the research shows that a lot of times when kids are feeling like they are being bullied or that they're a victim of harassment, intimidation, or bullying, they are looking for an outlet in which they think would be helpful when really it's counterproductive to the issue at hand. So we have really partnered with our counseling department, our MHAT counselors, as well as our special education department. If people of concern have special education IEPs, 504s, to get that help written in there to ensure that they're being seen by providers to help support in that mental health piece. Definitely.
If a student hears a threat or something, is concerned about something, or a parent, how do they report a threat in Bellevue?
Yeah, so calling the police is the best thing that you can do first off, because if there is an imminent threat, then we can make sure that it is investigated properly and timely. Next, you can always contact your building administration, always contact the Vector Solutions, our anonymous tip line, where you can call in, text message, or write an email in, or if something is heard at a school site, having that individual report it to a trusted adult is always the main way to get information and threats.
So the Vector Solutions or the Vector reporting, is that basically like, I know that on all of our school websites, there's a button that says report a safety concern. Is that pretty much what it is, or?
Yes, and it is on every single website of the Bellevue School District webpage as a whole.
Okay, great. And those are anonymous, so somebody could report an anonymous tip.
Absolutely. You have the opportunity to report it as anonymous, or you can put in your contact information.
We're just about the end of our time. Doug, I do want to ask you a little bit about trainings, because you talked about trainings at the beginning for staff, and we've done a lot to make sure that all staff are trained on a routine basis. I know that some in the community are wondering, do we train kids too? Because so much of this seems to be like a student thing.
Yeah, absolutely. We do train kids. So a big component is training our staff, and our staff are receiving 2+ hours of life safety training on a yearly basis, right? Everything from active threat to reunification, emergency response roles, and also suspicious activity reporting. But our students are a huge component of our buildings, right? So we do provide secondary training for our students, and specifically at the secondary level, subject matter experts from the Safety and Security Department leverage some of the technology that we have access to here in the Bellevue School District, and we use live Teams training to pipe into the classrooms while students are in their classroom with their teachers. And subject matter experts from the Safety and Security Department talk to those students and those teachers about a lockdown and a lockout and what the difference is between those emergency responses. And then at the end of that conversation, they run the classroom, each individual classroom in a building, through a lockdown drill to where they get up, they close that pre-locked classroom door, they shut the lights off, they close the blinds, and they stack up on the door out of sight of the windows, assessing their situation, right? Getting ready to determine what their next steps will be in response to a critical incident. So we do that training for the secondary students. We also conduct bleeding control training for secondary students, opioid reversal, the administration of Narcan, and drug trends and hazards.
In some ways, it is such a sad thing that we have to train our students about these types of things, and staff. It just shows kind of in some ways, the sad state of our society that we even have to train about keeping ourselves safe in the school building. But one of the things that you said when you were training the school board was, this training is not just for the school setting. It is about staying safe wherever you are. And that was kind of an aha for me, because yes, we're training to be safe in our schools, but the things that we're learning actually help to keep us safe wherever we're at, whether it's at the mall or in church or temple or whatever it is.
Absolutely. These are life safety skills. These are skills you can bring out into the community. When our students graduate from high school, they're going on to vocational, they're going on to college, they're going on to the workforce, right? And those employers out there, those colleges are expecting them to arrive with a certain level baseline of training and knowing how to respond to emergency drills and emergency incidences. But the training that they receive here in the Bellevue School District, whether that's fire evacuation, bleeding control training, lockdown, lockout, response to chemical hazards, chemical spills, that's going to make them safer in the community too, whether they're in their church, their synagogue, whether they're at the mall, they're at the movie theater. It's making the entire community safer.
My last question is, Kelly, thinking about kind of the future of safety and security in the Bellevue School District, what would you like to see us kind of tackle next, or where are we looking to improve moving forward?
Ooh, that's a great question. This last school year, we have launched our Safety Academy 201. So we offer a Safety Academy 101 where we have 8 hours of hands-on emergency role training. And in the last year or so, we have launched our 201. So that next step, additional classes taking a deeper dive into some of these responses for these emergency roles, as well as a 301 where we conduct a mock disaster drill. And we've actually done it with a handful of custodians over the last few years, which is amazing. So it's a 4 hours. We bring in a lot of drama students or volunteers to act as live patients for us. And so they have to, participants have to go through a school and have to exercise the skills that they have learned. So that's search and rescue, how to conduct a safe search, how to transport people who may be wounded, and how to care for those injuries, whether they are life-threatening or more minor.
That's great. Same to you, Doug. Kind of what's your hope as the head of our safety and security department? Where are you hoping we're going to go next in improving safety and security for our student staff?
Yeah, there's a lot out there. So we are, and we firmly believe in research-based implementation of best practices, and we want to establish the gold standard, and I think we're well on that way to establishing the gold standard for K-12 safety and security. But there's a lot of technology out there that we're looking at. We want to make sure that we're leveraging the best of technology, right? There's limited resources. We have limited finances to deal with, but I'm interested in seeing where we head to next with technology and enhancing the physical footprint of our buildings.
Awesome. Well, we're just, we're thrilled to have the two of you leading. You also have, you're part of an amazing safety and security team. I always tell people, but safety and security is of paramount importance to us in the Bellevue School District, and we have the gold standard of safety and security teams here in Bellevue. You guys have done just a really tremendous job in preparing us and keeping us safe, and so thank you for all you do.
Thank you. We appreciate the support.
And then that's the end of this podcast. I'll say it's awesome to be here at Bellevue High School. Colin, you've done an amazing job. It's been pretty amazing. I wish people could see just the whole setup that they have here in Bellevue. They got an amazing podcasting program. Colin, thank you for kind of hosting us here at Bellevue High School today. I hope this is something that we can do in the future.
Of course.
All right.
Thanks, Colin.
everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.